So thank you all for joining us for the first in our three-part series for the Compassion and Resilience Education at Work. This first session is going to be focused on work-life balance, and I'm glad to see so many of you on today. I think that's something that we can always improve on. But we are here at Extension, UF-IFAS Extension. We're an equal opportunity institution. And today's speakers, I'm going to pass it on over to Wanda and Hillary to take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wanda Adorno. I am the Family Consumer Science Agent in Seminole County.
And hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here today. My name is Hillary Ayers, and I am the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent in Orange County.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Zayas. I don't believe Angelica is going to be joining us for this session, but my name is Patrick Zayas, and I'm also a UF-IFAS Extension Agent here in Orange County.
All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is, of course, we'll do our introductions. We're going to have a short little icebreaker, and then we're going to go into some terms and definitions all about work-life balance. We're going to talk about the dimensions of wellness, and then we're going to go over SMART goal setting, and then we're going to give you an opportunity to set your own SMART goals. Did want to give a little bit of a background on the CREW curriculum, or the Compassion and Resilience Education at Work. It was developed by Purdue University Extension, and there are 3 different sessions. So of course, today's session is all about work-life balance. And then there is a stress management session that's going to be on Thursday, September 5th, virtually again from 12 to 1 p.m. And then the 3rd session is about stigma reduction, and that's going to be held on Tuesday, September 10th from 12 to 1 p.m. virtually as well. Before we get started, we did want to do a few disclaimers because this session does include health education that is meant to inform. It is not meant to diagnose or treat specific medical conditions. The content is not meant to replace recommendations or any treatment that you may receive from a healthcare professional or your doctor. And some topics that we discuss may bring up different thoughts and emotions. Some of the topics may even challenge your viewpoints, right? People bring a wide range of experiences and differences to each session. We do recommend, if you need to, you're free to step away from the session at any time to take care of yourself or just take a breather. Each session is meant to be as useful for you as possible, but the topics that are covered in this curriculum do have limitations. So we want you to keep that in mind, right? Keep in mind that the strategies and options to address these topics may vary from person to person. And some just guidelines for you as the participants, right? We want you to participate actively if you are comfortable doing so. So we're never going to call on you, right? We're never going to force anyone to answer. But it is nice when we get to hear, your viewpoints, or if you even have comments on anything. So again, it's only if you would like to. We ask that you listen to understand, right? Not just respond to what we are saying. Remain open and respectful toward others' ideas and views, because we are all different. We all come from different areas in life. And then we just ask that you also use suitable language. And if you are, participating and you're maybe wanting to talk about a situation, be sure not to call out others. If you're talking about certain individuals, just be sure that you're not using them by their name, right? Because we don't want to call out anybody when we are talking about them. And with that, we would like to do just a quick little icebreaker. We're not going to spend too much time on this, maybe just a minute, but we'd like you to share. Please feel free to, type in the chat if you'd like to. What is a skill or hobby that you have always wanted to learn? And I will go first. I have always wanted to learn how to do jujitsu. So I see in the chat now sewing, I see pickleball, cake decorating, skiing, tango, ASL, guitar, scrapbooking, more pickleball, piano, surfing. Oh my goodness, so many cool things. Gardening, throwing, ceramics, tennis, sleeping. Yes, I do want to learn how to manage my sleep. That's a good one. All right, that's great. Thank you so much for everyone for sharing. If I did not get to you, I'm so sorry, but these are great. Dancing, learning Spanish. All of these are amazing. Painting. I hope everyone gets to learn about their hobby and skill. All right, with that, I'll turn it over to Wanda.
All right, so moving forward, let's share some common terms often used when talking about work-life balance and mental health. Going over these terms together increases our own working knowledge of the terms. It also ensures in group activities we have the same understanding of what it means. These terms are work-life balance, burnout, stress, resilience, and wellness. Work-life balance is the idea of multiple roles of demands in a person's life that can shift based on priorities and similarities. Burnout is an experience of feeling exhausted, negative, and less effective due to ongoing work stress. Stress is defined as the physical or mental response to an external cause. Resilience is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or even significant sources of stress. Wellness refers to a person's attitudes and the decisions they make that impact their health behavior. Now that we are familiar with some of these terms, let's talk about mental health and work-life balance. Let's each think about our own wellness. I'm going to break it down the concept today of wellness into different dimensions of wellness. And the next activity, you will access your own well-being according to these dimensions. The self-assessment can help you identify areas of imbalance as the first step of thinking about how you can improve your balance and wellness. For this next activities, I'm going to need a few volunteers who will be willing to read out loud. You may have this in your package that you receive. If you don't have it in your package, you could read it from the slide. The first dimension that we have is physical wellness. May I have a volunteer to read the definition of physical wellness?
The definition is a person's bodily needs. Wellness efforts can help prevent illness and injury, enhance quality of life, and manage health conditions.
Thank you. So some example of imbalance could be chronic illness, injuries. Simple ways to address imbalance and improve wellness is physical activity, your nutrition, your diet, what you eat, sleep, and safety. Can I have another volunteer, please, to read the intellectual wellness?
Intellectual definition, a person's thoughts and ways of processing ideas. Wellness efforts can invite creativity, expand knowledge, broaden ways of thinking, and foster an open mind.
Thank you. So example of imbalance could be feeling stuck, lacking of interest challenges. Simple ways to address imbalance and improve wellness: explore and learn new things, play brain games or other stimulating activities. May I have another volunteer to read environmental wellness?
Definition, how a person's surrounding affect their experiences. Wellness efforts can improve a sense of feeling and safe and calm.
Thank you so much. So some example of imbalance could be chaotic settings, unsafe surrounding. Simple ways to address imbalance and improve wellness: have a clean food, water and air, manage distraction, design surrounded to support your needs. Our next one is emotional wellness. Can I have another volunteer?
Emotional definition, a person's feelings about themselves, other people, and the surrounding world. Wellness efforts can bring a sense of being in tune with oneself, as well as an ability to cope with life's challenges.
Thank you so much. So some example of imbalance could be feeling emotionally numb, feeling constantly overwhelmed, struggling to cope with emotions. Simple ways to address imbalance and improve this wellness: become more aware of your emotions. Do activities to process and decompress during high stress stress levels. My next wellness is financial wellness. May I have a volunteer to read financial wellness?
A person's relationship with access to and understanding about money. Wellness efforts can promote a sense of security and confidence about income, debt, spending, and savings.
Thank you so much. So example of imbalance is financial insecurity, struggling to keep track of money. Simple ways to address imbalance and improve wellness. Create and keep to a budget. Learn more about debt and saving options. Now, social wellness. Who would like to volunteer to read social wellness?
A person's sense of connection with personal relationships and in community. Wellness efforts can enhance a sense of belonging, purpose, confidence, and satisfaction in relationships.
Thank you so much. So example of imbalance is isolation or lack of belonging, feeling mistreated or discriminated against. Simple ways to address imbalance and improve wellness. Learn new ways to communicate. Get involved in the community. Spiritual wellness. Anybody would like to volunteer to read spiritual wellness?
I'll do that. Spiritual definition: a person's core beliefs or values that affect how they live their life. Wellness efforts can strengthen a sense of purpose and meaning.
Thank you. Example of imbalance is lacking of purpose or a sense of life meaning. Simple ways to address imbalance and improve wellness. Practice mindfulness or meditation activities. Learn about different belief systems. Connect with a spiritual group. Now, the last of our wellness that we have is vocational wellness. Who could volunteer to read vocational wellness?
A person's activities that offer purpose and use their skills and talents, often for employment. Wellness efforts can address the balance between work and leisure.
Thank you so much. So some examples to address this imbalance. Access career goal, reflect on how personal value fits into work. Do activities outside of work that brings you joy. And do work that brings you fulfillment and purpose. The fact that at this point, each dimension towards balance or imbalance can vary from person to person. We have reviewed each of the dimensions and share some examples. Now take a few minutes for a self-assessment. This means you will reflect on how you feel today about each dimension of wellness. On your dimension of wellness wheel handout, rate your fulfillment from each dimension from low to high. The higher your fulfillment, the more filled that section should be. The lower the fulfillment, the lower that section should be. This creates an easy way to see the imbalance across all the dimensions. I will give you about 3 minutes to do this activity. You should have, this is in your little package that you received in the email. If you don't have it, if you have a pen or a piece of paper by you, just look at the different dimensions and maybe write down the numbers from 1 to 5 and go ahead and start shading it. But if you do have the handout, go ahead and use the handout. I'm gonna put my timer and let's take 3 minutes to do this. All right, that was exactly 3 minutes. If anybody needs a little bit of more time, just as we discuss a few more things, maybe you could finish it. If not, we encourage you to finish it sometime today or tomorrow, so you could see where you're at. Now that everyone has completed the wellness dimension self-assessment, let's discuss the result, what it tells us. So if you feel comfortable, I want you to write your answer. What do you think on the chat box? What do you notice about your wellness levels across the dimensions? Well, they're all the same? Were some more higher than others? Which dimension get most of your attention and time? That is a good question. Which dimension gets the least attention and time? For me, it's spiritual. I think I need to go out to nature and do a practice meditation. Which dimension gives you the most satisfaction? And my last question for this activity is, what happens to a wheel when one section is not working? What do you think?
It's the imbalance.
It's imbalance.
Flat tire.
Thank you. Now, these dimensions can change often. A person's satisfaction with each dimension and the time spent on it can change over time. Doing this assessment from time to time can help you check in with yourself about where you might be struggling and where to focus your effort to improve your wellness and balance. So don't throw away the handout, try to keep it, and from time to time, try to do the self-assessment. Now we hand it over to Hillary.
All right. So I'm seeing in the chat, I'm just looking, some of you are saying all of your areas were low, or there's room for improvement. Some areas were 0, not what you expected. Some of your dimensions were, some were high, some were low. And it seems like everyone has different areas that maybe they want to improve upon. So it's really important to realize that once we have a sense of where we may be out of balance, we can start to think about what to do about it. So on the screen here, you'll see it's a little snapshot of another handout that was sent to you in an email. It was also dropped in the chat by Patricia. So if you didn't receive that email or didn't get a chance to open it up, it is in the chat for you to download now. It is titled The Creating a Healthier Life, a Step-by-Step Guide to Wellness, and it's from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, also known as SAMHSA. It was dropped in the chat earlier, but we're going to take a moment to look at this SAMHSA Wellness Strategies handout to talk about different ways to address the different dimensions that concern you. I am only going to go over this very briefly today because, as you can see on this next slide, it is very detailed. We're not going to go over the whole thing again, so I definitely encourage you to look through each strategy further after today's session. But I do want to go over a few examples on how to understand this handout. So you'll see on this slide here that's showing it's improving our physical wellness. And then you see those 3 different columns there. So this entire page would be all about your physical wellness. So maybe that's a dimension that was a little bit on the lower side. So this is where you would think about the area that you need or are thinking about, improving. So that's that first column, the area. And then it has things that you would think about in regards to that area. And then it has different resources that you can, kind of check out or, see that might help you improve that area. So I'm going to do an example for physical wellness. Let's just say that the area in physical wellness that you need or would like to improve is nutrition. Some things that you might want to think about when it comes to nutrition is, do you have access to fresh, healthy food? Are you in a position to eat at home so you can better track, what you're putting in your body, what you're eating every night? Are you improving your diet by setting small goals for small changes each day, week, or month? Right? So maybe start thinking about those things as it applies to nutrition. And then some resources that SAMHSA suggests in the area of nutrition would be, checking out a local food co-op if you have one in your area, or maybe even a farmer's market, right, for good, affordable food. Maybe visit the USDA's Choose My Plate website. It really helps you learn more about the 5 food groups that you should be eating every day. They have quizzes that will help you, and they go over each area. So maybe checking that out might help you. Or maybe, even meet with a dietitian and nutritionist if you need help. Or you can try different programs like Weight Watchers, maybe, a food tracking app or nutrition app that can help you. So again, it just helps you see and think about ways that you can improve and then give those different resources. And there are resources and areas for each different dimension of wellness. So you have intellectual wellness, then you'll move on and you'll see financial wellness. There's also environmental wellness, your spiritual wellness, if that's something you need to improve upon or would like to improve upon, spiritual, social wellness, and then emotional wellness. I didn't mean to skip occupational. So then there's occupational and then emotional wellness. So again, didn't go over all of it. So I definitely encourage you to just really read through this. It really helps you get thinking about how you can improve whatever dimension you would like to improve upon. But now that we've, briefly gone over this, I want you to think about areas that you are thriving in. So let's go back to that dimensions of wellness wheel that you filled out. If you could offer any type of advice to those in the group that are struggling, right? So maybe there's someone struggling. Let's just use that physical activity area. What advice could you offer to those in that group that are struggling in physical activity? Feel free to write it in the chat if you have any great ideas. Or maybe another thing is, if you are struggling in the area of physical activity, what changes could you identify to improve in that area? Any thoughts on this? Find a friend to work out with. Yes, right? Sometimes we need those accountability partners, or just sometimes just working out in general or doing physical activity is sometimes just better when there's someone else doing it with you, right? Makes time pass by. And again, someone else to hold you accountable when you really don't feel like working out, but you've got that buddy that's like, no, let's go. We're gonna go on that walk today. UF Wellness Zumba, really like that one. Zumba's fun. Looking into office exercises. Yep, having someone do activities with you. Helpful to identify a class, provide the structure, date, time. Yeah. Schedule a time to complete. Yes, I love that one. Actually putting it on your calendar, right? So that way it's there. You know it's something that you wanna do. Keep track of nutritional intake and increase fitness activity. Yeah. Remember that some physical activity is always better than none. That's a great point. I always love to point this out, that anything that gets your heartbeat beating faster is better than nothing at all. So I love that comment. Create workplace challenges. Ooh, yeah, a little friendly competition going on. Start small, aim for 30 minutes, walk a day after lunch, for example. I love this. Thank you everyone for all of your great suggestions, right? Those are all wonderful. And this last one, especially starting small, helps to lead us into our next session, our next topic, sorry, SMART goals. So, right, we've identified our dimensions of wellness that may contribute to work-life imbalance. We've also identified strategies to help improve that work-life balance, right? And you all gave a lot of wonderful suggestions about physical activity in the chat just now. But now we're going to practice creating a plan to put these strategies into action using what's known as SMART goals. So again, there is a handout that accompanies this, was sent along in that email you received from HR, but again, was dropped in the chat. So if you have that handed on you, please go ahead and take a look at it. But if not, we'll be going over it on the slides as well. But before I get into like big details about SMART goals, I just want to ask and do a quick little poll in the chat. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being not at all and 5 being an expert, how familiar are you with SMART goals? So one more time, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being not at all and 5 being an expert, how familiar are you with SMART goals? So I'm seeing some 4s, some 3s, 5s, 1, more 5s, 5 plus, 3, 4, 3s, a 0, 3, 0, 5. Okay, so I'm seeing like a good little mixture. There's some of you who are like, yes, expert, I'm a 5, 5 plus. And some in the middle, maybe a 3, and then 0, keeping them 0. So we're going to work on that, on all of these. So even if you're an expert, we're going to work on creating a SMART goal today. And if you're not familiar with them at all, we're going to talk about it, and you're going to learn all about how to make and hopefully try to keep those SMART goals. So setting goals using the SMART approach can really help you remember the important traits that make a goal strong. And each letter in SMART stands for one of those traits. So for example, you see on the screen SMART. So first we have S, which stands for specific, meaning what exactly do you want to do? Then we have M, which stands for measurable. How will you know if you have reached this goal? We have A for attainable. How realistic is this goal? Is it within reach? Is it something that you feel like you are going to be able to accomplish? R is relevant. How does this goal connect to the concern you want to deal with? And then T, timely. How long are you giving yourself to reach this goal? SMART goal setting can really help you, make a plan to improve your work-life balance. So when you look back at the dimension of wellness areas that you want to improve, right, that you identified earlier, you can apply SMART goal planning to work toward improving that dimension's balance. You can also use the process of setting SMART goals to create a personal action plan. And what this plan can do is it can really help to guide your efforts to improve the dimension or dimensions of wellness that you are struggling in. And when it comes to SMART goals, you're really encouraged to start small. Meaning, you want to set, one or maybe just a few SMART goals to see how it works for you. You can also use that SMART goal handout that was emailed or dropped in the chat for other things to consider when you start thinking about setting your goals. So when you are creating your goals, you want to think about why your goal is important to you, right? How do you think that it will help you balance out that dimension of wellness that you're wanting to improve? Maybe think about obstacles, right? What could stop you from meeting your goal? Thinking ahead is really, going to help you overcome these obstacles. And when you are creating your goal, you don't want to forget about the resources that can really help you to achieve your goal. And these resources can be people in your life, family, friends, colleagues. It can be places or maybe a thing you need to meet that goal. Just remember, though, that your resources you use may vary based on where you live and work. So let's take, again, that physical activity as an example again. A physical activity goal may depend on access to places in the community that support active living. So for example, if you're wanting to create a goal and you think to yourself, I want to take a walk around my block for 3 days, for 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week, but you don't have access to a sidewalk, well, maybe that walking and that form of physical activity isn't going to be maybe the safest for you. So think again about where you live. Maybe you live in an apartment building where there's stairs, so you can kind of change that goal a little bit and say, I'm going to walk up and down my stairs, 10 minutes for 3 days a week for the next month. Or maybe your apartment building has a workout room. So instead of walking around your block, you can change that goal to, I'm going to walk on the treadmill in our workout room in my apartment building. So just, again, it's kind of thinking about those obstacles and think about where you live and think about the things that are going to support that goal that you're making for yourself. And I also want to say, it is okay to connect with a professional for help when you do need it. You can connect with a therapist to talk through your emotions and mental state. Or maybe you're comfortable talking to a faith-based leader to discuss spiritual goals. Or again, going back to that physical activity, maybe it's talking to a personal trainer, right? That can help teach you safe movements. Or if it's financial wellness that you want to improve, talking to a debt consolidator. So there are many people that you can turn to for assistance when you're working on making a goal. You can also, of course, turn to family, friends, colleagues for support and accountability, which can be so great. Sometimes that's all that we need, right? Those people who are our accountability partners and who are there for us. But I did want to, state, professional resources can also really help to support making those lasting changes. All right, so now we're going to use the SMART goal handout to set a SMART goal. First, we'll walk through an example together. So for those of you, again, who are in that 0 or maybe even all the way up to the expert, we're still going to walk through an example together, and then we're going to have you practice making your own SMART goal. So first, let's go through some examples. So again, we're looking at that SMART. The S is specific. So your goal, again, should detail exactly what you want to do. Example of this would be thinking about what types of physical activities that you like, right? Again, when it comes to physical activity, if you don't like it, you probably will not do it. And this goes for a lot of things, right? So try to think about what you like, especially with physical activity. Then start to think about how much of it you would like to do and how often. It could be moving for 20 minutes a day, at least 5 days per week. Moving could include several activities such as walking, running, or push-ups on the floor, or against the wall. So again, you want to be specific. Instead of saying, I plan on moving, 20 minutes a day, 5 days per week, be specific. Are you walking? Are you running? Are you, doing push-ups? Then we're going to move to the M for measurable. Your goal should be something you can measure to see if you have reached it or not. So an example of this would be, counting the number of minutes or the number of days per week that you complete the wellness activity. A is attainable, right? Your goal should be something attainable. You want to set yourself up for success by making your goal something that you can do, right? We don't want to make our goal something that's just really far reaching. Make it something you can do. So an example of this would be perhaps you determine that moving for 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week is unrealistic. So, with your work and family schedules, you decide to commit to walking 3 days a week while you're waiting to pick up a child from a sports practice. So again, in this specific example, when it comes to being attainable, you're realizing, okay, I just can't commit to 5 days a week, but I can do 3, right? It's attainable for you. Then we move to R, relevant. Your goal should be relevant. It should relate to what you're trying to accomplish. So, an example of this is ask yourself if moving 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week will help you shift the dimension of physical activity into balance. And then we have T, timely. Your goal should be timely or time bound. This means that you give yourself a set amount of time to reach the goal. So an example of this would be, you want to reach your movement goal over the next month. You've set a time that you want to reach that goal. All right, I know that sounds like a lot. I'm going to put all of this into a really quick example. So again, going back to that physical activity, right? Maybe I'm wanting to improve my physical activity dimension. So my goal might be, I will walk for 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week, for the next month. So I've been specific, right? I'm walking, being very specific about what I'm doing. It's measurable. So I'm 20 minutes, 3 days a week. For me, it's attainable because I'm looking at my schedule. I'm also very busy. I know, 3 days a week is all I can commit to right now. And then it's relevant. It's more activity than I'm doing now. And I think it's going to help me, shift that balance in my physical activity wellness dimension. And then it's timely. I set that time of I'm going to do this for the next month, right? All right. So I know it's been a lot, but we're going to give you a few minutes for you to consider and set your own personal SMART goal if you want to. So what I challenge you to do is choose one dimension of your greatest need or a dimension that you've seen you have a need from that self-assessment that you did earlier with the dimensions wheel. And then if you do have the handout in front of you, you'll see in that handout, there's a section that says concerns to address on that SMART goals handout. You're just going to fill that in. So whether it's the physical activity, maybe it's emotional, right? Whatever concern you want to address. And then you're going to fill in the rest of the handout to set a SMART goal that may shift that dimension towards a much better balance. We're only going to focus on one SMART goal for today. So don't worry that thinking you have to make a SMART goal for everything. Just focus on one that you really want to work on. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes for this because I know it's a lot and sometimes we have to think about these things, right? Within that 5 minutes, if you do have any questions about making a SMART goal, please feel free to put that in the chat and we'll answer that for you. But I'm going to go ahead and start my timer and give you 5 minutes to work on your SMART goal. All right, everyone, my alarm just went off. So that was 5 minutes. And I've already seen some sharing in the chat of goals that some of you have set for yourself. So thank you so much for sharing those. Is there anyone else who would like to share their SMART goal? You can go ahead and write it in the chat. I'm seeing some really great ones for physical activity, nutritional intake. Well, I'm waiting to see if anyone writes anything in the chat about the SMART goal that they wrote for themselves. I want to go ahead and say, when we're thinking about our goals, you might think, when might you reassess your goal? We don't want to wait until the very end of whatever time frame that we put in for ourselves, right, to assess whether or not we're making our goal. So a good time to reassess your goal is at that midpoint range, right? So if you set it, gave yourself a month, right? That's the time that you gave yourself. Check in at that 2 weeks and see how you're doing. And if you're not making the progress you want, then maybe reassess it. Maybe you need to, change the minutes a day or the days of week that you're doing something, right? Maybe it's that attainable piece that you need to kind of reevaluate. So again, you want to reassess your goal at that midpoint. And some signs that your goal and action steps are working are going to be, you're achieving the things that you set out to do with a SMART goal, right? You are working out the 3 days a week for 20 minutes a day for a month. So maybe that's when you reevaluate and you make a new SMART goal for yourself. I see someone wrote, tracking my financial expenses at least once a month to have a good savings by the end of the year. That's awesome. That's a great one, right? You're tracking your expenses, right? You're being specific. You're timely once a month. You want to have, savings by the end of the year. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you all of you who have been sharing in the chat as well. And I just want to say too, when it comes to goals, is adjusting your goal does not mean that you have failed. Okay. Sometimes, right, I don't ever want to say that we have setbacks, we have side steps, right? Because we're not going back, because we can always adjust, right? We're just taking a quick sidestep. So again, I'm going to say this one more time. Adjusting your goal or having to reevaluate your goal does not mean that you have failed. It's often necessary to adjust as you learn, more about how well the current goal suits you at that time. It's quite common, right, for us to view our progress as all or nothing, right? Sometimes we think, okay, unless I'm doing it all, I'm failing. But I encourage you to practice shifting from an all or nothing mindset to a more self-compassionate one, right? Okay. Instead of judging yourself, recognize your efforts and give yourself grace. Making change is very difficult. So remember to give yourself grace. You're here. We're all here. We're all different. We all have different challenges in our lives. And things can be difficult. Just know that, you're here, you're trying, right? So remember to give yourself grace and give yourself compassion, because again, it can be difficult. So just hang in there, right? And just as Wendy said, even small efforts towards a step in your goal is a win, right? I say this all the time, but it's like the tortoise or the turtle. Small steps, right? But eventually we get to that big win. So give yourself some grace. Then I have one more SMART goal before we move on, shared in the chat: getting up and walking for 5 minutes a day at the office. I don't do it all now, so it would be a step in the right direction. And that's great. And I love, it seems like you created a goal that's, right, again, attainable for you. And so that's awesome, right? Again, anything that gets your heart moving, it's better than nothing. So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
All right. That was a lot of information, but good information. I'm hoping that everybody is able to at least take one or two things out of this information. So to wrap up today, we went over some terms and definitions, dimension of wellness, and we set some SMART goals. So work-life balance sometimes shifts back and forth as situation changes over time. You can use this dimension of wellness framework and self-assessment tool, again, from time to time. It could help you identify areas of work-life imbalance and adjust them when needed. If your circumstances become overwhelming, we encourage you to seek professional help. We're going to share some handouts that you can use to explore more resources that may apply to your circumstances or maybe someone you know. I believe these handouts are not on your package, but here's some good information that maybe you could use it for yourself or someone you know. All right. Does anyone have any questions, any concerns for us?
I do see there's something in the chat. Let's see. It says the workshop seems consistent with cultural wellness. I'm not as familiar with if that's a different topic. I'm not sure. Wanda or Hillary or Patrick.
We will do a little bit of research.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that specifically. Oh, I love all the support. Oh, thank you guys for being here. And I love all the support for one another in the chat. So thank you for all being here. And being that supportive person for one another. I always say whenever, especially if you have a support person for your goal setting, making sure that it's not the saboteur type of support person. So like whenever you go to the restaurant, you ask them what they're having so you can maybe make not the best choice, or that person that's really going to lift you up. So that's what you really want, that supportive person.
Yes.
There was a question about, I don't know if you see it in the chat, Wanda, about the resources shared. If we might need to go back to those so they can screenshot it.
Let's see. Give me 1 second. Oops.
And while she's pulling that up, I want to say thank everyone for being here today. And we do have another session on Thursday. And I think Hillary and Wanda have done an incredible introduction and getting us started for overall wellness, because we know it's not just about physical activity and eating good foods for overall wellness. There's so many more components.
Are you able to see it?
Yep,
Okay.
I think
good, thank you.
so. Could you make it a little bit bigger? Yeah, well, it's in, yeah, that's fine. Mhm.
And there's a question in the chat. Was there something you shared that's not in the packet? I believe that everything we talked about today was shared in that packet that was sent to you all.
I do encourage that to read the package. It does, it goes over everything we went, but into a little bit more details, and I feel like it will make it probably will make sense or clarify maybe some concerns as maybe somebody will have. So definitely we encourage you to go over the handouts.
And the sessions are being recorded, so they'll be on the HR website, and Patricia probably can share that link with you all, which will have the slides there. And I do believe we should be able to, I'll get with the team and find out if we can go ahead and share those in a PDF format as well. Oh, thank you.
Well, if anyone doesn't have any more questions or concerns, please be on the lookout for an email with a survey. The survey definitely helps us in our end to make these workshops better, and it helps to see if this is if it's working or not. Thank you so much.